So coming out of week 7 for the San Francisco 49ers, I could probably imagine the reaction from the faithful, the casual, hardcore, whatever kind of fan you are for the 49ers. I could probably imagine it being this. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a little bit concerning, very concerning. I don't know. Either way, it was week 7, Monday Night Football. At least on the positive note, you didn't have to watch Monday Night Raw, that atrocity of the show with the Judgment Lame, Becky Lynch, all those jobbers on that show. At least for me, I got to watch Monday Night Football with my team, the 49ers, take on the Vikings, hoping that they would bounce back from that week 6 loss, looking like the skid marks that they were in Cleveland. But yeah, let's talk about this game. Let's not sugarcoat it any longer. And let's look through the highlights that I had for all of you in this recap of the 49ers week 7. And, it seemed like that they were going to get off to a fast start. Charvarius Ward stole away a catch from Jordan Addison, the rookie receiver that, was going to be de facto number 1 because there's no Justin Jefferson because he was on IR with the hamstring injury. But unfortunately, the 49ers couldn't capitalize on that because Christian McCaffrey fumbled it in the red zone. So they gave it right back to the Minnesota Vikings. But I found it very odd that Kyle Shanahan had Christian McCaffrey run it there. Why not go for a pass in the end zone? Because you could have been up 7-0 right there in and there. But nonetheless, yeah, they squandered that opportunity, and Kirk Cousins in the offense made him pay for it. So a little bit of a bounce back for the Vikings offense there because they were pretty much attacking the 49ers soft defensive coverage, and they never looked back on that. So the 49ers paid for their mistake on offense, and they let up on Jordan Addison scoring a touchdown, and they were already trailing 7-0 from there. But at least for the 49ers, they were at least efficient on offense still. Pretty efficient with his arms and also making plays with his legs too to keep the ball moving. But unfortunately, as you head into the second quarter, they just came up empty once again because, well, the problems and woes that Jake Moody, the rookie kicker, was having in Cleveland, it carried over again into the mini, and it stayed 7-0 because he missed on a 40-yard field goal. Like, damn, dude, are you trying to get yourself cut? These are the kicks that you have to make, and you still weren't making them. So for the 49ers defense, they continued their lack of actual defense. They, for whatever reason, they just could not get to the quarterback. They could not get to Kirk Cousins. They could not cover Jordan Addison. They could not cover TJ Hawkinson. They couldn't cover whatever random receiver Kirk Cousins was throwing to. And they also could not stop the run. A team in Minnesota that was struggling for much, if not all, of the regular season so far in trying to run the ball with Alexander Madison, and now they had Cam Akers. They were struggling to run the ball, and yet they were running with ease on this 49ers defense. So they were just, by that point in the second quarter, they were toying. They were just toying with the 49ers at that point in the game. And on that series where after Jake Moody missed the field goal, they weren't being stopped. They still weren't being stopped. And not even penalties could stop Minnesota either. Not a pass interference, not holding, but nothing. They were just very lucky, though, that the 49ers defense limited Minnesota to a field goal. So it was 10-0. Okay, now just do something on offense. And even though I was in disagreement with Kyle Shanahan calling Dr. McCaffrey once again, CMC, I mean, it worked in these short yardage situations. And in between all that, you had Brock Purdy still being efficient in the passing game, going to call on Brandon Ayuk's number, also calling upon George Kittle. They were at least doing pretty good so far. And then Christian McCaffrey cuts the lead down 10-7. But it could have been, it could have been some points on. They could have even been up, but no, lost opportunities early on. And unfortunately, though, the defense couldn't do jack shit. The defense couldn't do jack shit, get pressure, and in a reversal of fortune before the half ended, Jordan Addison, the rookie receiver, stripped another potential interception from Charvarius Ward and turned it into a touchdown, a long touchdown. And now the Niners were not down 10-7. They were now down 16-7. Like, what are we doing? Like, what in the wide world of blue or purple, in case of the Vikings, the purple fucks, what were we doing on defense? Like, and especially, why were you calling a blitz, an all-out blitz, a straight bull rush blitz with all your corners, your safeties, and your tight defensive line on third down? Why was Steve Wilks calling that? Even Kyle Shanahan in his post-game presser was thinking, I didn't like that. I didn't like Steve Wilks calling a all-out blitz on third down with less than 15 seconds to go, and they paid for it. They definitely paid for it, and that wasn't the first time. That was not the first time that Steve Wilks called that. So I don't understand why he called that, and it clearly didn't work. Everything leading up to that point, nothing was working for the 49ers defense. They couldn't pressure. They couldn't get to Kirk Cousins, at all. I mean, maybe it had to do with the Vikings' decent, solid offensive line that was missing their starting left guard. But, damn, just couldn't do anything. So, when you leave the first half, they could have at least been up, or at least tied with Minnesota. But they just let those early opportunities, especially on the opening drive, slip by them. But again, that's not where the problem area lies. The offense was doing fine, but it was the defense. They couldn't do anything to stop Kirk Cousins in that offense. Then that usually, like I said, the usually struggling running game looked like God. Ugh. Like Noseman, Triple H. And they were playing too soft. They were playing too soft in the secondary. They were sometimes far away from the receiver. And when they were about to get set. But you should be man to man. What are you doing? And the defense overall, you just need to find adjustments. You need to fix something real fast at halftime, because it was going to fall flat on your face if you didn't. And unfortunately, it still fell flat on your face in the third quarter. But that's before we get to that point. The offense, they were still doing all right, but the offensive line actually was starting to fall flat in his face in the third quarter, because Spencer Burford's blind ass let Danielle Hunter fly by him and get to Brock Purdy. And the 49ers almost turned the ball over, and they actually did turn the ball over, because Brock Purdy had an initial fumble, but the officials ruled it as a down by contact. So they were lucky there that ref ball didn't give the ball to the Vikings. But still, defensively, they still had trouble. They still had trouble covering, pressuring the basics on trying to get to Kirk Cousins, trying to stop all these receivers. It's just they couldn't do anything. They really couldn't do anything against this middling team in the Minnesota Vikings. They looked like the middling team. It was like role reversal. Once again, for the 49ers, for the second straight week, it was role reversal. Come on. This doesn't look like the team that started out 5-0. They look like meh. They look like meh. But at least for them, they were still able to hold them to a field goal. The Vikings couldn't capitalize on the red zone yet again. It was 19-7 now. So, at least for the 49ers offense, they had a nice response. Purdy got them into the end zone in less than 65 seconds, which was good. And now all of a sudden, it was a 5-point game in a hurry. After Christian McCaffrey got a screen pass from Brock. And yeah, just like that, midway through the third quarter, it was a 5-point game. But here's the problem. The Niners defense still couldn't do shit until Minnesota lost Jordan Addison for a quarter and a half to some cramps. And they had to settle for another field goal, 22-14. Now it's an 8-point game going to the fourth quarter. So now you go into the fourth quarter. Purdy in the offense, they once again drove down the field in a flash. But they could have kept the drive going. But Ayuk just couldn't secure a very low catch on third down, so they had to go for a field goal. And I was kind of like breathing down hard because like, oh shit. Well, Jake Moody is kind of like slumping. He's been fucking up, but at least in a long field goal situation, he actually makes it. Like, I think it's like 50 plus yards. And I'm like, okay, he makes that kick, but he can't make the short yard kicks. But I mean, it's something. We'll take anything at this point. So back down to 5. It's 22-17 early in the fourth quarter. And the defense actually finally gets a stop. They finally get the Vikings to punt. KJ Osborne can't secure a lob pass from Kirk Cousins. And Kevin O'Connell, I think Joe Buck and Troy Aikman pointed this out. Kevin O'Connell, who usually is aggressive on fourth down, they don't go for it at midfield. They punted. And the Niners actually were, once again, starting out fast on offense. But unfortunately, Brock Purdy threw an interception to Cameron Bynum, like in the 20s. So that was very bad. That was a very bad interception. That one was kind of Brock Purdy's fault, but at the same time, Jawan Jennings, the third receiver, stopped on his route. He was like hesitating, and then that led to Purdy getting intercepted. And then, so they had to play defense. But once again, no ability to stop Kirk Cousins in the offense. Not in the running game, not in the passing game. And now you had to burn the last 2 remaining timeouts. And you already burned one because you couldn't get the playoff early in the third quarter. And you also had a Fred Warner injury scare, which was concerning in of itself. But at least for the 49ers, life was given when Greg Joseph missed the field goal, which could have extended to 8 had he made it, but it was still a 5-point game. Okay, you had a little bit more than 70 seconds to make it a game and probably win this game. But unfortunately, Brock Purdy made a very poor throw at the 40-yard line and threw an interception. That one was totally on him. Another one to Cameron Bynum, and that shut the door on another potential game-winning drive, 22-17. The Vikings win it. So, yeah, the 49ers lost this game. Their second straight one. They're 5-2 now. And, yeah, they are kind of losing their grip in the NFC standings, and it's only halfway through the season. And I don't know. And like I said in the very beginning, there's probably going to be sounding the alarm, pal, and all that. And there's definitely concern for that. But I think the main concern for me is the defense. The defense is starting to get absolutely awful. The secondary, as I repeatedly said, has been unable to cover at the likes of Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and then last week was Amari Cooper. And then you couldn't even cover like random guys like Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne. And they're also making stupid self-inflicted penalties, like random holding calls, which some of them were, ref ball calls, but you shouldn't be doing them anyway. And then the pass rush couldn't hit home on Kirk Cousins. And then whatever Steve Wilkes had dial up for his defense, his top rate defense, it just didn't work. And whatever he's calling them, it's just a straight up bull rush or an all out blitz. It's like Steve Wilkes has to vary up the style of how he wants to do these kind of things. The thing I appreciate about D'Amico Ryans is that he varied things up. He tried to zig and zag his guys, but Steve Wilkes, he just goes all in, and then it doesn't end up in an all out result. So they don't end up all elite. Hint, hint. And then for Brock Purdy on offense, still a very solid game. Pretty efficient for most of the games. It's just that the final execution just wasn't there again. And he's going to have to learn that he needs to execute on these game-winning drives. Otherwise, can we really trust you? I mean, I still do, but you gotta execute when it matters most, man. You really do. So now we're 5-2, and the alarms are sounding. The alarms are sounding. It's getting a little a little concerning. But now our attention turns to week 8. the Niners better hope that they can avoid a third straight loss. You're on a short week. You're coming back home before your bye week in week 9, but there's a problem. Things are gonna start getting a lot harder. You thought you were gonna play some scrubs in Cleveland, then you didn't, and then thought you were gonna play some scrubs in Minnesota, and then you didn't, and now here you are. You're gonna face some real, actual competition down the stretch, at least for the most part, and that begins at home against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are actually coming off their bye week. So they're gonna be fresh. And the Niners are going to be off a short week, coming back home from Minnesota and preparing for this game against the Bengals. And they're also, the Niners are going to be a little shorthanded still. They might get Trent Williams back, but they won't have Deebo Samuel, who didn't play in this game. So for the Bengals, we're going to talk about this game more in depth when we preview this game later on. They've had their fair share of issues on offense, mainly because of the calf injury to Joe Burrow. But at least for Burrow, he seems like he's getting a little bit more healthy, and he's flashed back some of his true form. But their defense has been the main story to most of their wins this season because they got to help out. They had to help out their quarterback. So the Niners, they're coming home to face Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Fresh off their bye week, and if the 49ers can't rebound at home, they get their third straight loss. Now it's really the time to start sounding the alarms. There are going to be some real problems heading into their bye week at the halfway point of the season. So, yikes. So, if you're a Niners fan right now, there's some reason to panic, but if they really lose to the Bengals, then there's going to be even more reason to panic heading into that bye week. But hopefully they find a way to bounce back, and, well, they better do it. There's not really a lot to say, ladies and gentlemen. There really isn't. But like I said, main reason for the concern is that defense. They got to find a way to fix that in a hurry. I don't know what that is, but they have to find a way. So, yeah, that's my recap for the 49ers Week 7 loss to the Minnesota Vikings. They are now 5-2. They are kind of down in the standings to the Eagles and the Lions, but that's the least of their worries. They have some internal concerns right now. So, yeah, 22-17 is the final score. Let me know your thoughts on this Niners loss to the Vikings in the comments below. And until next time, keep the lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.